when I won the DMC World Finals, Rob was like a big time help to me right at that point. Like I used to come into his house, practice, just put my set together. Like we were just putting our song together. We just thought like, hey, it'll be dope if you do this at that point, and just a lot of input, a lot of help.
You could watch a videotape and not realize how much time and energy was put into those 6 minutes. Months and months of practice, you know, all boiled down to 6 minutes.
So I wanted to show that clip because I felt like it kind of really goes into the facts of what you're explaining. Mm-hmm. Like you can be a DJ or you can be a DJ who understands and appreciates the culture and, you know, is doing everything they can to keep the culture alive. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people out there trying to literally just like push it aside. No, we're good here. We're good here. Don't worry about it. It's the same thing with hip hop. You know, like the new hip hop guys, I can't even call them hip hop guys, but the new rappers are the first to be like, oh, well, that's my dad's music. That's my dad's stuff. Like, that's not us. We're trying to do something different. And they're trying to just like push aside. You won the 91 DMC, what?
92.
East Coast?
1992.
Okay. Gotcha. So you took that, and can you tell people a little bit about like what doing that, what it takes, what's involved in not only winning, but competing in something like that?
That's a great question. I saw, all right, let me backtrack actually. I heard, because when I was coming up, there was no smartphones, there was no YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. All you had was a landline telephone that your mom owned.
That she always owned.
Right,
exactly. The long cord.
Right, exactly. And you had the access to VHS tapes, beta tapes, and the radio. And I would listen to the radio avidly every weekend, Friday, Saturday at night. I'd put my headphones on, turn my dad's amplifier, and listen to DJs like Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out on 98.7 KISS. I'd listen to DJs like Marley Marl and Mr. Magic on WBLS. And over by the lower numbers of the scale of radio stations, closer to like the 80s, there was a guy named Johnny Juice. Big ups to Johnny Juice, who DJ'd on a radio show called P5, I think it was called the Post-Punk Progressive Pop Party. And the host of the radio show was a guy named Jeff Foss. And rest in peace, he passed away a few years back. And they had a college radio show. Now, on college radio, you have the ability you have more freedom, I should say. You could technically play whatever you want. You don't necessarily have to follow the program director's list of songs to play. So what Johnny Juice would do, and I thank him to this day for this, he would bounce audio from a VHS tape of DJs like Cash Money, Cutmaster Swift, Chad Jackson in the world finals of the DMC competing to an audio tape. And then he would play that audio tape on the radio. So I'd be home listening to Johnny Juice Get Busy. And then every now and then he would break into these excerpts from DMC competitions. And that was my first exposure to the DMC. It wasn't something that I saw visually. It was something that I heard. I had no idea that these competitions even existed. So I remember Cash Money cutting up Get Down by LL Cool J, calling me a sucker, sucker boy, sucker, sucker boy. Cutmaster Swift cutting up Peter Piper. DJ Aladdin cutting up Rock the Bells. And I was just like, yo, what these dudes are doing is not what Red Alert, Marley Marl, and Chuck Chillout are doing. Like, they're doing something on a completely different level. And it doesn't sound like a human could move that fast. It sounds like, I don't know if anyone out there watching and listening to us is old enough to remember the Latin Rascals. And the Latin Rascals were these two DJs that would create these super cool, action-packed, hyper-energetic mega mixes, and they would play them on 98.7 Kiss. But they would edit songs like Run DMC, Rockbox, Houdini, Friends, all kind of stuff. But they would edit it similarly to the way Mantronics did production for like Just Ice and MCT. So they would do stuff and splice sounds, and it would sound like a DJ backspinning, but it wasn't. It was them just editing music.
Oh, wow.
Right. But Cash Money, Aladdin, Cutmaster Swift, Chad Jackson, these guys were doing it manually with their hands, manually doing what the Latin Rascals did on a piece of 2-inch reel and tape and splicing words and beats. These guys were doing it with their hands, and I was just like, how is that possible? And then the fast forward a year or two, big shout to my boy Ralph McDaniels. He's the host of a popular flagship video show here in New York City called Video Music Box. And again, back then, you know, if you wanted to watch videos, you'd have to watch them on TV and wait for your favorite show to come on. And Video Music Box came on Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 4:30, and I would race home from school, turn it on to channel 31 and watch videos. Run DMC, LL Cool J, Cypress Hill, NWA, all that stuff. And one day, Ralph McDaniels showed an excerpt of the East Coast DMC from 1990. And in that DMC, it was Steve D beat juggling, taking drums and rearranging the drums, remixing them the way that I heard Cash Money and Aladdin and Chad Jackson and Cutmaster Swift do it, the way I heard the Latin Rascals do it with 2-inch tape on 98.7 Kiss. But now I'm seeing it from my couch at home, and I'm like, yo, that's how they do that stuff. Like, I see like the guy is looking at the records and he's manipulating time and space with his hands. And I just fell in love with that style of DJing. And this was summer of I'm lying. This was late winter, around March of 1990. And I saw that on Video Music Box. And that day I made the decision to get more serious about DJing. And I told myself, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to enter this DMC competition next year. And I want to be on stage getting people to respond to my creativity the way Steve D did on that fucking little excerpt. Like, it was a few seconds, but he moved me. And that was my exposure to DJing. And well, DJing on this level, on the level of beat juggling and scratching and competing and all that.
So when you came up, because obviously how long did it take you to get to a routine where you were like, okay, this is quality. I can put this out there to people. Like, how many months would you say you practiced a specific routine?
I'll answer that question this way. From the age of 12 to the time I was 19, I basically trained myself how to do what I heard Johnny Juice do on the radio, Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, Marley Marl. And then when I finally got exposed to the higher level of DJing by cats like Aladdin, Cash Money, Cutmaster Swift, then I started training to be like those guys. So I would say I spent 7 years understanding the hand mechanics behind backspinning, beat juggling, scratching, and learning how to mimic the routines that these amazing DJs were doing from start to finish. I spent, I started off learning how to backspin Good Times the way Grand Mixer DST did at the end scene of Wild Style.
Right.
I learned how to scratch the way Grandmaster Flash and Jam Master Jay did on the songs that they put out with the Furious Five and Run DMC. But then, thanks to my boy Juju, who just had a birthday a couple of days ago, a happy belated birthday, Juju, from the Beat Nuts. Juju was close to a guy named Dr. Butcher, and Dr. Butcher at the time was like the best DJ in my neighborhood and arguably in New York. He never competed, but he was dope. This guy was amazing.
There's always that guy that never competed, but you knew he was better than everybody out there.
Exactly. And he DJ'd for Coogee Rap. And Juju, knowing how much I loved DJing, was like, yo, man, I got to introduce you to Dr. Butcher. I think Juju understood that I plateaued and I reached a level. I was coasting on a specific level of DJing that wasn't really fulfilling my true potential. And I don't think I even knew it, but Juju knew it. And he was like, yo, man, I'm going to take you to Dr. Butcher's house. Watch when you get to his house. And sure enough, I went to Drew's crib and Drew put on a DJ clinic right in front of my eyes. So it's funny. I'm telling this story to you on what goes into composing a routine, but not to kind of go off on a tangent, but first I was exposed to DJing sonically by listening to the radio, DJing on the level that we're talking about, like the beat juggling and all that. Cause sure. I learned about DJing through my brother and my dad first, but then I saw that video on Video Music Box of Steve D, that excerpt of him cutting it up on a song called Friends by Houdini at the DMC in 1990. Then I went to Dr. Butcher's house and I was there in person and I was seeing this guy do all the stuff that Steve D did in the flesh. And it was July of 1990. And I remember after Dr. Butcher finished, I was like, dude, teach me. Like I was that prototype, kid in the martial arts movie who's young, thinks he's the shit.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly. Young, thinks he's the shit, but then encounters that master who's just light years ahead of him. And I was just like, dude, take me under your wing, man. Like, teach me. I want to compete. I want to get in a DMC next year. Like, I was like, literally next year, I want to do this. And he was like, all right, I'm going to help you train. So we trained
paint the fence.
yeah, exactly. Karate Kid, And so he was Mr. Miyagi and I was his student. And from July of 1990, we trained all the way till March of 1991. So let's see, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 9 months straight, Monday through Friday. I was at his house at 6 o'clock every day because that's when he got home from work and we trained.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it took me 9 months. It took me 9 months to develop a 6-minute routine and master it well enough to compete and place third in my first battle. And then the year after that, I entered again and won.
And I think what a lot of people aren't even understanding what you're describing here, it took you 9 months of steady work just to be able to compete at a high level. We're not talking about all the years that you were just DJing and developing your craft. This was to take you to the next level. There's so much involved.